Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. On a gloomy Sunday at, 12:40 p.m.? Yep, about that. I am going to go to to work and then to my gym. I'm going to work just to do something to put the car through its paces a little bit. But anyway, I wanted to drive around a little bit. This is the new software release 10.69.2.3. So it's just a point release, but supposedly it is significantly better. I am going to actually wait for this car to come, cross traffic here just a little bit, and then I will turn on full self-driving while I'm waiting for this car. Just know that I am responsible for the vehicle. I have to keep one hand on the wheel at all times to sort of prove that I'm alive, and you'll see it asking me to jiggle it every once in a while. But the car itself drives, it does the turning, the braking, the acceleration, everything. So this is a bit of a weird place to turn on full self-driving, but let's just go for it. All right, and it actually knew where we were going. Actually realized that we were stopped. I've just been sitting at that stop sign for a while. So anyway, I will attempt not to have any interventions. We will go on the highway for a while, and if the highway is as boring as I expect it to be, I'll probably just cut that part of the video or fast forward it or something. The highway is still using what's called Enhanced Navigate on Autopilot, which is kind of the old stack that has been previous to the full self-driving beta. One of these days, probably with version 11 of the software, they are going to give us everything mixed in. And it could come as early as 10.69.3. So Elon's been teasing this a little bit, that we're going to get real smart summon, which is like parking lot and real smart parking and things like that, and possibly also the highway stack as well. So basically, the neural network system has been creeping out and taking over a lot of what used to be hard-coded. This is, by the way, a little bit annoying because the stop sign, it says it's here. Oh, that's interesting. People have told me there are double stop signs, and it's definitely showing that. So you can see a car coming, another car coming, and we should be able to go. This is one annoying place, and unless somebody follows me, I'll just leave it alone. But you can see the vehicle is defaulting to 25 miles an hour, which it definitely isn't on this road. It's definitely 50, as you can see, but it won't go to 50 until we pass the sign, which is highly annoying. So anyway, and now all of a sudden it'll go to 50. So yeah, it's very annoying that the car will not pull out into traffic at 50 miles an hour, which is what it's supposed to do. So anyway, we'll see if this guy decides to turn in front of me. That's a classic Georgia drive. Pull right in front of somebody and don't go fast so that you have to slow down for them. But you can see the car is handling that. It's slowing down slightly. And braking. Normally I take a left here, but the car does not like to go that direction because it's officially a parking lot, even though it's much more convenient because I skip like 3 or 4 lights. But because we're doing a non-intervention drive today, I'm going to just let it do its thing. So anyway, you can see the visualization again if you're not used to this. The red is the edges of the road. The sort of light white color or light gray color is the drivable space that you're allowed to be on. The grayish color is all of the background, and then all of the vehicles are vehicles that are, you're contending with. So as we get up here, you'll see other vehicles. And the one with the darkest gray is the one that you're officially following. So as we switch, yep, did you see that? This one just turned dark gray. So that one was dark gray, and now this one's dark gray. So you can see it swapping as it does that. And yeah, it's showing that this person's walking. She's not walking, but she's there. So anyway, let's see. We should have not too terribly long to wait at this light on a Sunday. Sometimes this can be a very, very long light, but hopefully not too bad. Anyway, this is the reason why I never take this route. And actually, one of the reasons why I don't use full self-driving 100% for my drives is because I'm always annoyed at having to go this way. So I just drive it myself through the parking lot and then turn it back on again on the other side. I'll indicate where that is when we get up to it because it'll be just a little ways up here. Yeah, you can see even on a Sunday it's very backed up and there's a lot of lights, and so it gets snarled up. So it's really annoying to drive on this road. So one of the things that'll come up here is, I think it's 3 lights, and then the car is going to need to be like over to the right lane and then over one more lane because it's going to need to get onto the highway. And so it has a tendency, at least in the past, to do that poorly because it doesn't plan ahead enough. So not now, but pretty soon, I think, I don't know, yeah, 0.5 miles. So it's not that far away, so it should be starting to think already about when to get over into the right-hand lane so it can scoot over. But it has a tendency not to do that, so we're gonna see what happens. I've said this before in many, many self-driving videos, that I consider the poorest part of full self-driving currently is the midterm planner, which is the 20 to 30 second range, where it's having to figure out what lane to be in, when to switch lanes, things like that. So right now, after this next upcoming light, there's another light, but by that light I need to be over 2 lanes from now. So we're really taking a little bit of a risk here. The good part about this is if it really can't get over, it can alternatively go the opposite direction. This the highway we're getting on is like a loop. It goes around in a circle, and so if it can't go the short way, it can go the long way. So even if it doesn't get over, we shouldn't have to intervene, but it will be annoying that it's not getting over where it should be. Plus the fact this right lane was just much shorter anyway, so it was just poorly efficient. So anyway, that's the kind of major area that I have always critiqued full self-driving for. I mean, as far as the way this thing feels, it feels like a human being driving now, and I'm actually definitely noticing the difference between .2.2 and .2.3. This feels already way more comfortable. It's just amazing how much they're fine-tuning the comfort level of the drives. I haven't felt like the car has been dangerous for quite a while, but it has that situation where I will disengage it because of a comfort thing, where it's like it's a little bit tweaky in the way it drives and everything. And my wife is particularly not a big fan of the jerkiness of full self-driving sometimes. So now if this thing's smart, it's going to start to try to get over here. This, by the way, is the light that I usually pop out at, which you can see is exactly why. So I don't know why it's not trying to get over. It should definitely, okay, now it's getting over one lane, but it needs to be over another lane. So this is always the problem, is it doesn't plan this early enough, and I have no earthly idea. I guess we're going north. I have no idea what's going to happen here. It is not doing a good job. So yeah, I don't know if it was originally planning on going that way. Every once in a while it decides to go this way, so maybe that was the original plan, but I don't believe so. I think that the plan, oh my goodness, what is it doing? Oh wow, okay, we're going straight. Okay, I'm letting it have its head. This will also get me to work. This is just a very strange way to do it. Let me just check that. Wow. Oh my goodness. So this is interesting. It's going to make an attempt to do a U-turn. It's done this before. It gets completely freaked out. And so this is what I'm talking about. I'm just letting it go. This is a Sunday. I don't care. But normally I would just take over and make it happen myself. I don't know why it didn't just bail out and turn around and go to the north route, because that's a completely adequate alternate route to get to school. And actually this direction straight is an alternate route to get to school. So what I might do, actually this will be more interesting anyway because it'll keep it on city streets, is I might force it to ignore this directions. So I think what I'll do is I'll disengage so it doesn't do this whole ridiculous thing and try to do a U-turn. So I'll disengage, go past the light, and then re-engage it, and then we'll be on just a city street the whole way. So that'll actually make the drive more interesting anyway. But you know, apparently it will work. I've done this before where it's actually done a complete circle around. It won't do a U-turn, but it'll come back around again and get back on the highway, but that's just kind of ridiculous. So anyway, I'm going to go behind this black car. I'm going to disengage. So again, disengaging just for navigation at this point, but it is, again, midterm planner is screwing things up. And let me see, let me wait just 1 second to see if it reroutes itself. I want to make sure. Okay, and now, okay, and now we'll re-engage it. So now it's pretty much, it's just this road almost up to where my office is. But actually what I might do is get up close to there and just switch over to the gym anyway. But yeah, so you can tell that that's an unfortunate aspect, is that it just doesn't quite plan properly, and it really gets stuck at that particular intersection back there. It's not aggressive enough about getting in, and then it just doesn't quite understand how to bail properly. But it's one of those things where what it needs to be doing is planning ahead. Like, it's that sign, it's like plan ahead, where the D is down because the person didn't plan ahead. But it's really, it happens over and over and over again. Now, as far as the driving is concerned, I feel very safe. So I was starting to say that previously. The early versions of this I got, and it was almost exactly a year ago. I can't remember the date. I think it was October 20th or 21st or something of 2021. So it was almost exactly a year ago that I got full self-driving beta 10.3.1, by the way, if we want to be specific. But that had some significant problems. And there were a lot of safety interventions where I didn't feel like the car was being safe and I had to intervene. Here what's happening is I'm calling these convenience interventions, like that one just was, right? It was an intervention that I was like, I didn't really feel like waiting and having it do this ridiculous U-turn kind of thing, go around in circles. I was like, I'd rather just go faster and be more efficient. So that has nothing to do with safety. That has nothing to do with like being dangerous. It's just efficiency. And the car wasn't being as efficient as it could be, which was frustrating. So anyway, so that's the kind of interventions that we're having most of the time nowadays, rather than safety interventions. And so, you know, there is also a tendency, this car does have a tendency to break, especially if you ask my wife, she gets very upset about this, but it has a tendency to break a little bit later than a human does. So I know you can't tell because you're not in the car right now, but the car, like, it's like a half a second to 1 second, a little bit slower than what I would do is take my foot off the accelerator and begin to apply the brake to slow down. By the way, you don't have to apply the brake if you do this right, because of course you can do one pedal driving in a Tesla because it has regen braking, so it will slow down on its own as soon as you take your foot off the accelerator. So anyway, you know, but those are like really, really minor things. And honestly, if you're sitting in the passenger seat, I've been in the passenger seat while full self-driving's been engaged, and I don't think about it anymore. I feel very safe right now because I'm in the driver's seat, and so I feel a great deal of responsibility. I'm paying attention, as I should be, and very much paying attention to exactly what's going on and whether there's any problems. And so I'm kind of hyper aware of what's happening. Whereas if I was sitting in the passenger seat, I might be sleeping or doing something else, reading, looking at text messages, going on Twitter, whatever that would be. And obviously at that point, when I'm not really paying attention to what's going on in the world or on the road, it doesn't feel anymore like a computer driving. Now, originally it did. There was originally a time, like I said, about a year ago, when you could definitely tell it wasn't a human being driving. And I've said this before, I've mentioned this before. I have a 15-year-old who got his learner's permit, gosh, I guess it was about 2 months ago now. So anyway, it's been interesting watching his level of improvement in driving versus the car's level of improvement. And I noticed something that happened relatively recently, just a couple of weeks ago. He'd done a lot of city driving, but hadn't really done a lot of highway driving. And when he got on the highway, he was distinctly worse than the Tesla was. He was, kind of jerking the car a little bit and accelerating and decelerating and just generally nervous about going that kind of speed because, it's 65 miles an hour, and so he's not used to that. So it was really fascinating to feel the fact that I was like, wow, I really wish that he was using full self-driving right now. Now, of course, I don't let him use full self-driving because he, A, needs to learn how to drive the car himself, and B, it's a lot of responsibility to be watching the car. So obviously I don't let him do that, but it is interesting to note that I can feel in the passenger seat that there are times when he is distinctly worse than the car. So, all right, in terms of the way that I'm feeling about this right now, again, I know this is a relatively straight shot, but the car has been driving really, really solidly, and it just feels excellent right now. It's not wavering around. I don't know if you can watch this, but watch the steering wheel. When it makes turns, it's not jerking the steering wheel like it used to a lot, and when it's straight, it's not wiggling back and forth from side to side on the road. See how smooth the steering wheel is turning? Very, very nice. I mean, that's excellent. And that's one of those things that will convince you it's a human being driving, and a relatively experienced human being, is that the car will turn and maintain its lane very, very well, and braking versus what this guy is doing. So it's doing quite nicely in these circumstances. All right, wow. I'm gonna turn down the speed just a teeny bit. So anyway, that's just me. But yeah, so you can see that the car, it's very well situated directly in the middle of the lane, because you can see from the visualization, and it's not wiggling the steering wheel, it's not jerking it back and forth trying to maintain where it is. I remember my older son, who is, gosh, pushing 30 years old now, wow. Now see, here's where it's a little bit late. I would have braked starting earlier so that I didn't have to brake so aggressively. It does it fine, but you have to get used to the fact that the full self-driving is a little bit delayed in terms of its reaction time. I think maybe we humans are a little bit on the early side. Maybe that's what it is, and so I'm just used to that. Anyway, but my older son, he used to have Lego Mindstorms, which are those little Lego robots that you could put little teeny, very primitive brains in, and they could follow roads and things. You could put 2 black marks on the outside of a piece of paper or something like that, and it would follow it around. But the car was like this all the time. It would go like like that as it drove, because you could see it making decisions, going like too far right, counter, correct, too far left, correct, too far right, correct. So it's really nice to see this vehicle not doing that. It's just locked in, dead center. It goes through these intersections, no problem at all. It's doing all of this stuff with such confidence and such smoothness. So yeah, you think about like not just the velocity, but the acceleration. So like I said, the braking tends to be a little bit aggressive for my taste because it does it a little bit late, but it's fine. It's not dangerous. And then the sort of next derivative of acceleration is what's called jerk. And that would be the kind of jerkiness of the car. So if the thing was jiggling back and forth sideways, especially when it used to make left-hand turns or right-hand turns, it would jerk, 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 jerk. And then there's even one more derivative past that, which I found out recently is called snap. And it should have let that guy in, by the way. That was very rude. I just noticed that guy had his turn signal on. I was like, oh man, he should have been. And then it was super rude because it actually just stopped and blocked the guy. So he's kind of like partway in the lane. I feel bad about that. But again, we're doing a no intervention drive. So it does have things that it can still learn, because it could have been nice and could have allowed that person to get in front of us, which would have been absolutely fine. I'm not sure exactly why he wanted to get over anyway. But in terms of safety and in terms of comfort, the vehicle is driving so well right now. It's absolutely crazy. I actually, while we're waiting at this light, let's see if I just put in the active climbing. Okay, let's see. I want to see which way it takes us. I want to make sure we kind of go through downtown and get a chance to do, let's see. That's close enough. All right, let's just go for it. Since we drove on the city here, we'll just go ahead. So we need to go on King Avenue here and then over to Prince. So we're going to need to get into the left lane here soon, which is going to be interesting again. We'll see how well it does. That's always the interesting aspect with this. Oh, okay, here it goes. So the person behind us, by the way, was blue. I don't know if you could see that, but they turned blue for just a moment because that's the car. Like the dark gray car is the one that's the lead car, so it's like, okay, that's the guy in front of me. The blue cars are ones that it's paying attention to because it's worried about them, basically. I don't know if a computer is allowed to be worried, but it's concentrating on them. So now we're gonna have to make an unprotected left here. This will be interesting. So we do have, we have the right of way, well, not the right of way, we have the capability. I'm gonna have to watch this very closely right now. 2 hands on the wheel right now. But it obviously has to wait. So see, you can see all these blue cars are the ones, this is what I'm talking about. It's concentrating on those cars and it's going like, oh, I need to, give way to those cars, pay attention to those cars, etc. This is really interesting because we are now kind of in the intersection. So if this light happens to turn yellow before there's a break in traffic, this car really needs to go out and make the turn. Now, hopefully after this BMW, it's just gonna go. We'll see. Oh, yeah, a little bit slow. I mean, it could have just done it a little more aggressively. My goodness, woo. That's some acceleration off of there. I know there's a stop sign coming up here, so I was like, know that you need to accelerate quite that rapidly, but whatever. It's all good. And of course, because we're no longer allowed to do California stops, we are coming to an absolute complete stop. And then we're going up here. Very nice. Very nice. Again, smooth. That one moment back there where it kind of accelerated, that was a little bit aggressive in my mind, but there's plenty of human beings that do it that way, so it's probably much to its detriment modeling we human beings and figuring out that that's the way we're supposed to go. So anyway, so we're going to go down here, we're going to go past the hospital. I believe there are speed bumps, maybe. It's been a while since I've been down this road. But if there's speed bumps, it would be good. Oops, sorry. I did have my hand on the steering wheel, but if you don't give it just enough resistance, it can sometimes lose track of the fact that you have your hand on the steering wheel. Anyway, if there are speed bumps, it'll be interesting to see how this thing handles them. It kind of has like a 50-50 relationship with speed bumps. Like 50% of them it slows down for and kind of understands, and the other 50% it just barrels right ahead. So maybe I'm wrong. No, it probably is up right by the hospital if it's up here. Again, it's been quite a while since I've been. I used to actually live kind of to the left over here. Nice house, lovely area of town, but got way too expensive to live in. So anyway, this would be normal town for those who are Athens, like natives or whatever. And maybe I was wrong about the speed bump. I thought there was one, but I don't don't see one. So it needs to kind of slow down. Yeah, good. Okay. So it slowed down. It braked just a little bit for that, and now it needs to make a unprotected right-hand turn. Actually, it's a yield. So, and it needs to yield for these cyclists, which you can see. So, good. So clearly it understood that. I'm not exactly sure why it stopped quite that far back. Maybe it was because of the cyclist. Oh Lord. Woo. Okay. Woo. Okay. Sorry, that was probably me. I don't know. I just got a little bit nervous there. We will re-engage, but that was it decided to go for it, and I was like, wow, that's pretty aggressive right there. So I think it was actually fine, but I got a little bit worried it would have been fine in this lane. I got worried it was gonna jump into the other lane. So now let's see. There's a person. If this guy lets us through, we'll be fine. Oh Lord. Okay. Car. So again, the midterm planner for the win. So let's see what it does. It's going to have to figure out another alternative route because that was the way it needed to turn. Again, just not thinking about this stuff quite far enough ahead of time. It's a big critique right now, and that's going to be the thing where when they solve that problem, I'm going to say they are ready to roll. So, oh gosh, I think this lane actually comes down to 1 now. Yeah, this is all completely new stuff. So we should be fine. I think up at the next light, it can take a left and it'll be fine. Yeah, so this is all new, and by the way, if this was like Waymo or Cruise or something, this would have completely failed here. It would not have managed this because this is all different than just a couple of weeks ago. They basically blocked off a lane and put in parking here instead. And they put these huge barriers up, so you don't want to make a mistake and try to drive over that. That would be really bad. But clearly the car handled that exceptionally well, and it should make a left coming up here where the left turns lane is. Yep, okay. So, yeah. So again, everything about this except for the midterm planner is excellent. Now, I'm curious what it's going to do now because there is a car coming up behind this. Oh Lord. Okay. Again, probably my problem, but I'm not going to take a chance with that. So that guy, that was interesting because I knew that car was coming. I don't know if the car did or not, and I don't know if it felt like it was just about to stop, but I was not going to take a chance on that. That was not something where I was just going to throw the car out in front of that guy because he was clearly deciding he was going to go through that yellow light. Anyway, so interesting. So it had two, I would call it two aggressive two aggressive moves, or two extremely aggressive moves. I don't know. It had two of those moves where it probably would have been safe, but I was not willing to chance it. It's an expensive car, and I don't want to take a chance on messing it up. And then the other thing is just its inability to think quite far enough ahead of time yet. It seems to be, at a guess, maybe 10 seconds at a time. It's thinking about what it needs to do next. It needs to be thinking 20 seconds ahead of time, right? It needs to be thinking 20 to 30 seconds ahead of time. So it's very different. I hope it slows down for this railroad track. Oh gosh, oh gosh. All right, that wasn't great. It just sort of took that. And the gym is coming up here. I don't know if it's going to turn in or not. I don't know where the GPS is. Actually, this guy's turning in, so yeah, it's just ending. So it doesn't have a GPS location inside the parking lot. So I'll call that done. So yeah, so anyway, as far as the feel of the driving and everything, it is excellent. I don't have any problems with that. It feels extremely human the way it is. Wow, it is packed here today. Well, I guess I don't have a parking spot. Anyway, I'll have to pull up here and just park in the side. So yeah, anyway, it's very human, excellent driving. I'm extremely impressed with it, except number one, a couple of, very aggressive moves that it made that it really didn't need to do. And again, probably it would have been safe, but I was unwilling to test that out. It has not done that previously. 10.69.2.2 was being pretty cautious, so they've clearly added in some aggressiveness to what's going on. So that's number one. And then number two is the same old, which is it really needs a midterm planner. It needs something that can take over that 20 to 30 second range and think about what it needs to do in that range rather than in the 5 second and less range or something along those lines. So anyway, I'll be curious to know what you all think. Hopefully 10.69.3 is coming. I think Elon Musk said next month, so it could be as much as several weeks away. But yeah, but interesting that it was much more aggressive than the last version, 69.2. So clearly they've tuned things up to be aggressive, and I have a feeling in the next version, maybe there'll be a .2.4, they'll dial that back a little bit because it felt a tad on the aggressive side in terms of a couple of those maneuvers. But you know, when you're driving around places like Atlanta and LA and stuff, you got to be a little aggressive to get out there. So anyway, that and the midterm planner aside, but you know, the way it was driving, the feel of it, and it's really hard to talk about that on video or sense that on video, but the feel of the drive was incredibly smooth. It's so much better than it used to be. So if I was in the passenger seat, I wouldn't even notice that it wasn't a human driving. So it's really amazing. All right, I hope everybody has a lovely day. I'm gonna go climb now, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye.